Thank you so much for having me. As you said, my name is. Can everybody hear me first? Let me make sure
Yes,
everyone's
yes,
hearing
we
me.
can hear you loud and clear.
As she said, my name is Babajide Akeredolu, founder and president of the Nigerian American Football Association. I'm trying to see if I can pull up the slideshow and make sure everything is clear. So I was invited to discuss about the power of sports in shaping students' life and leadership. We'll try to make it very short and fewer slides, more conversation. Also, looking forward to having this opportunity. Thank you so much for your time. So, of course, we are now, that is what everybody knows us as, officially registered as the American Football Association of Nigeria, but publicly we are known as the Nigerian American Football Association. Funny story behind that, we tried to register as a Nigerian American Football Association, but yeah, when you use a word football, we all know what football is in Nigeria. So it was a battle that they're like, you can't call yourself this because football is football. American football is not football. So we had to figure out a way to get there, but we're where we are. So we're established in 2019, and our overall mission is just basically to create opportunities for Nigerians to the game of American football. It's as simple as that. So opportunity is something as small as not. I mean, scholarship is great. Somebody going to play professional American football in the US is even better. But for us, no, training a coach that is making his weekly stipend in the league, it's a win. And those are the ways we've always seen our approach to building the sports. The grassroots is a priority. And for us to do this, we do what you call the huddle way. And in American football, there's this idea that of coming together. So in American football, in every snap when you play the sport, if you've watched it before, there's a lot of play and stop, play and stop. So it's not continuous like soccer. Sorry, I'll call football soccer. So just bear with me. It's not as continuous as soccer. So you keep stopping, and when you stop, you come together and strategize, and then go and play. And of course, that's where you got the huddle. So we took that mantra and made it our at the ethos of what we believe in. And the huddle is an acronym that means health, unity, diversity, development, livelihood, and entertainment. And each of those pillars are what we strive to want to drive and achieve as an organization. And we operate a very lean structure at the moment, and we're built around this idea that's called CLARE. And so CLARE is, capacity building, league development, management, external relations, awareness, and retention. Today it's been very busy. I mean, I apologize. This slide is it's a little dated, the picture, but now we're in 17 states. Officially, unofficially, we're in about 26. Um, we have over 11,000 active players. Majority are playing in the secondary school program we run called the Nigeria Secondary School Flag Football League with School Sports Federation, uh, something I'll speak about. Today, we've exposed at least 500,000 people to the sports. Not that all of them are playing, but when you go to a school, they bring 200 kids to come and see, and they see this is a ball, this is a flag, this is how you play. That is a metric for us. And our goal was by this year was to hit 2 million. We didn't meet that target, but at least we've gone to a point where, I mean, Nigeria is on the map for what American football would be, especially flag football. That's the much easier variation. A lot of activity has been happening. We've given over, with the addition of hit about 450 million naira in scholarships since our inception. We've been able to about 220 athletes all over the country. Some are now even about to graduate from university, and they're looking forward to playing in the national team. For us, there is a lot that goes into the power of sports in shaping students. I won't speak too much on health and balance because I believe the previous speaker has done a very, very extensive job on that. But I can speak somewhat to academic growth and social skills because me personally, I know the benefits of what being in sports, not just as a student, but also, after the fact that I'm still in sports, I'm playing that leadership role in the particular organization I'm in. And, the biggest benefit of sports that comes with the time management and having a strong regimen cannot be understated. And when you translate that into your academic development, it's always good to know that, I mean, a lot of sports folks in sports, they can easily lose the benefits of knowing that, you're playing in a team, you're dedicated, we need to be disciplined. That discipline that comes with sports, once you translate that into your real life, it's always beneficial and it always drives academic growth. Social skills is like really one of the biggest things, especially if it's a team sport. We call American football the ultimate team sport because I don't think there's a sport in the original game that has as many players. Most teams have 54 players. So you have a 54-man unit that needs to operate as one to win. There's no sport that has that depth. And that's why I've always believed the greatest sport to improve Nigeria is American football. That's always been my position in this. Others can argue, but I mean, soccer has been around. The social skills, with how American football or sports in general creates bonds, breaks down barriers. We all know that. I mean, historically, whether you're looking at America and how sports was really the key to end a lot of the segregation and racism, it was at the core of a lot of those sort of things. I mean, sports, again, we see how women involvement in sports and how sports is really beginning to give women a voice. There's so many pieces that come into sports, and so for us, it's also critical that, schools and tertiary institutions really take sports seriously because the kids can truly and the students can truly benefit from all the life skills they can get from sports. I know there are what they call extracurricular activities and joining groups, in school, joining clubs and whatnot. I believe we should start looking at sports on the same level as those sort of things, whether you're an ISECA or you're a student union. We should start looking at sports on the same pedestal because the same benefits people get from those sort of things, they get that and even more in sports. And sports also opens up doors for many more opportunities. From a leadership angle, of course, again, teamwork, collaboration are critical. Decision making under pressure, that is so critical to when you a good leader needs to know that you're going to be under pressure, and you need to be able to make quick decisions. That's where sports comes into play, especially, I mean, whether you're playing I guess, single person sports or multi person sports, there's still benefits to that. You learn a lot of things under pressure. Of course, resilience and accountability. It's not a even single player sports. You have a coach, you have people you are answerable to. So even in those scenarios, you need to be accountable to yourself because yes, you have a set goal and you want to win that goal, and that's life. I mean, there's no difference between the experiences you get from playing a sport and the realities that life brings you every single day. So, of course, from that platform angle, it's those experiences across board that you tend to, how do you say, there's opportunities to benefit from. If you're active in sport, I'm going to assume everybody here is active in sports. And so, since you're those that are active in sports, it's now more of a call to say, look, take this from those learning experiences and don't keep them in a silo. See how you can apply those things in the rest of your life and every other thing you do in life. Of course, real world impact with being in the position that you're in. You have opportunities around career benefits. There are many people that if they see your CV and you have a past experience in sports, they are quite excited uh, to want to hire you. There's that example. There's the example of, again, ethic. People start to see the way you behave, and they like the way you behave, and that's all because of the experiences you had from playing sports. Of course, with empowerment, beyond your coaches, beyond you playing physically, there are other aspects of sports that I didn't even speak to. There are students that might not choose to play. Some might be more in the position of wanting to be referees, wanting to be this. So that ecosystem offers such a high level of empowerment. And again, the platform to be able to organize, coach, mentor, and volunteer across different boards. On this list, we just put some random individuals, not really random. Of course, everybody knows Chioma Duma, very, very famous, and how she transitioned, even though she's still a big advocate for the sports space, but her transition into being a police and her rising up to the ranks of being a DCP. Of course, Oka, someone we call Flash, he's one of us. This is him representing Nigeria. I mean, on the weekend, he's a flag football player for the club in Lagos and Team Nigeria. On the weekdays, he's a well accomplished lawyer. There's so many people that are in that category. Look at Michelle. I think Michelle has been quite popular lately, being with Team Nigeria for, and what she's been able to achieve, not just as a soccer player, but also, as a molecular biologist, very intellectual. I can speak to so many more. Currently, the GM for the Team Nigeria for American football flag. He's uh, he's a Stanford graduated from Stanford and very intellectual young man. He has his own venture capital firm. He plays full-time American football for a team called the New York Giants, and there's so many of them. Quite a lot of established guys in American football and other sports that are doing multiple things, and um, the sport is just one of many ways to grow. And we can see that and the benefits of the leadership experiences they get from being in those positions. Uh, Call to action on our part. Again, I know I am, but it's so important to see sports as a modern game. When you look at our huddle, the mantra, just one of those things, the E is the game part, entertainment. But for us, the huddle mantra is so encompassing of everything that sports offers you. Of course, the health aspect, driving and building unity, really building diversity, giving you leadership qualities, and then, of course, helping your livelihood. So all of that, if there's anything you want you to take from us as an organization, take from me is look at the huddle way, which is what we call it, and see how you can apply that because that encompasses what we believe leadership would look like and what are the benefits of being in the position of leadership. Of course, remember to invest in yourself. Yeah, yes, you can play for fun, but there's also an opportunity to look beyond it as just something that you're having fun with. And which, as I said before, I think institutions, it's really key that institutions should prioritize sports. In my case, I schooled in the US, and I know how the sports industry is with the NCAA and the NAIA, and now that even they're allowing players to be able to sell their likeness, like individuals are creating entire livelihoods and building their future through sports. We have an opportunity as a country to take it very seriously, and all of that generally starts at the university level. That is like the biggest platform to move someone to the next level. And we believe that institutions, universities, colleges, everybody, they are in a very very prime position now, more than ever, in my opinion, with the government that's trying to take the creative economy very seriously to really build out and sports and other non-oil related economies seriously. I think we have a very good opportunity to really drive that. So in summary, I believe sports builds leaders and not just athletes. And I was going to use that to segue into our story as an organization. So the Nigerian American Football Association, like I said, we started in 2019. And we started with a vision because a lot of people were already playing flag football in a little way. And we felt, look, if this thing is going to be sustainable, we need to bring everybody together. That was the first thing we tried to do. And then how do we now have a common goal? And then let's now focus on building the sport from the ground up. Now, for somebody like me, it was a sport I already knew. I worked with that community and we started to build this thing out. We didn't expect that we were recognized by the International Federation and the Federation at that point, but they saw what we're doing and they were trying to be as innovative as we could be. So, we said, well, if you're going to want to build something that's national and you're this small group of people, the obvious step is working with the Nigeria Sports Federation. Started in Lagos, moved to 6 more states, moved to 11, moved to 17. So it's been a gradual growth process for us. And just, okay, tweak, understand, update. And then, of course, in the process of doing that, we started to get more partnerships. Now, of course, we just started the expansion into university. It's taking us basically 6 years to go from secondary school to universities because we wanted to make sure the model works. And then now we're expanding our reach to start working with universities. And I believe that's one of the reasons I had this opportunity to speak here today. So with that, again, similar process, we are not the universities. We are not NUGA. We know there are structures in place. Don't go and say you want to create your own siloed structure. Work with the existing structure, build with them, grow with them, win with them. Um, and of course, beyond that, we now went on so well. Where are the opportunities? Now we understand the space. Where are the opportunities? We saw the opportunities are with girls in flag football. So many universities are looking for recruits for flag football opportunities. So we created a new platform for that. It's called the Gridiron Gems. And its focus is how do we build our girls in flag football. Now, yes, it's one thing to get them scholarships to school, but it's another thing to help build women in sports. So we didn't just focus on it's just about um, getting scholarships. It's now about how do you build this ecosystem for women to be in this space to build themselves up by themselves, by their mentors, and then help drive the growth of the sport, or even just help drive the growth of the country just by leveraging this very unknown sport called flag football and American football as a whole. Now, to date, as we said, the numbers keep going up. We're now trying to expand into the core sport of tackle itself because of demand for that. And all of this culminated to June this year. Nigeria was participated in the Continental Championships in Egypt. That's the first of its kind that was done on the continent, and we won both male and female championships. So officially, we're number one in Africa for flag football, and we're hoping in next year, August, we'll represent the country in Germany for the World Games, and we're playing all the big players, the USA, Mexico. Those are the big boys in the sport. Japan, and we're looking forward to going there, winning strong, and then representing the country in the Olympics. And this will be the first time the sport is being done in the Olympics. Why did I say that? I really compressed 6 years of activity into that. Of course, there are growing pains, there are issues everywhere, but trying to compare those 6 years just takes me to what I'd say is my last slide. And it's been, yes, you hear about successful. Generally, we always equate a successful businessman as a successful leader. And those things are somewhat not mutually exclusive. And for us, from that experience, I was like, well, the best way to summarize this, so not just speaking to the students, not students anymore. And the key nuggets we tend to hear about life in general is they tell us, okay, look, some of the most successful people were solving problems that they felt were their problems. So basically investing in what they know. Of course, many people, if you look at the likes of the Dangote and many of the big boys, they've always played the long game, and everybody builds strategic partnerships. And I listed all these things are not thinking in silos, creating opportunities, and understating and over delivering. And basically, literally rework all these bullet points as experiences in sport. And when we say investing in what you know, the first thing I think about in that space is, again, before you are going to commit to a particular game, again, there's a lot of investment that goes into that. You understanding knowledge of the sport and wanting to make sure that you're going to build that skill to the point that you can now say, look, I'm going to the point where, yes, I can buy that expensive cleat and we go and compete if I can afford it, right? So, the sports experience is the same thing with what leadership and life is. Playing the long game is just strategy. No, the one thing you speak about in Nigeria, that most people resonate with is soccer. There's strategy in how a team plays that game, and they understand that, look, this is the goal. Basketball is also another good example because that's a high scoring game where if you're flustered in the first quarter, you're screwed by the fourth. So you're thinking, how do I build out my strategy to the end? As opposed to, oh, I want to come out swinging. I don't have a plan over the next quarter, the next 3 or 4 quarters. Of course, the idea of building partnerships is the same thing with teamwork, within a sport, within team sports. Again, ties into not thinking in silos and creating ecosystem for everybody. And there's no better representation of that than a team sport. If everybody's not working as one, you've lost. That's just the way it is. And Same thing with creating opportunities for them, not just yourself. We're trying to help everybody grow. We talk about some of the greatest players in sports. What were they known for? The first thing most is when they came into that organization, the entire organization grew. Michael Jordan, Cristiano Ronaldo, you can name all the greatest players, at least in my sports. Names like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are the big names you hear about. You hear about once they entered the organization, yes, they were larger than life, but the whole organization benefited from them, even financially. So those things are all things that tie into sports. And understate and over deliver is very interesting because I laugh at, it doesn't matter maybe except for a few players like I guess Latin. But if the bulk of people in the sports space, when they're giving interviews, no matter what they did, they still try to play down and say, look, it's about the team. This is how things work out. There's a reason for that. Because again, making sure there's that cohesion and harmony in the system is most critical. And making sure that you don't hype up expectations. It's something that we see all the time. And these are qualities that come from playing sports. So it's like, whether it's success in business, success in whatever you want to say, there's so many nuggets that come from sports that can translate into that. So I think with this, I would like to say thank you all for having me. And thank you for the time. So I'm open to having any questions. Thank you.
All right. Now I'm looking at the last line. It says understate and overdeliver. You need to elaborate on this, giving us practical examples because we're talking to young boarding students who are literally trying to find their foot in life. And when you make statements like this, it might leave some level of not understanding the whole idea of understating and over delivering. Can you elaborate this with practical examples so that they understand the word and be able to imbibe
Okay.
it? Because I think it's very important for people to understand.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a comedian that used to say this: humility is key. So, I mean, understand advice, be humble. But that doesn't mean you should not express your capacity. But I think the good example I like to have is at least beyond the athletic space. What I tend to say is a lot of people are, they just give me a CV resume and they list all the things that they claim they have capacity to do. And then the question then becomes, okay, tell me when you've done this or what have you done in this? And then you realize that it's all fluff. They don't have that experience. They don't have that background. So they've come in to want to overhype themselves. And they find out that all of that is just all external and no substance. So the bigger example that comes to me and evaluating it to young people is being, look, be able to recognize your capacity, right? And in presenting your capacity, don't overhype yourself, right? Be pretty honest with what you're capable of doing. I know I can do more, but let me just be reasonable in my presentation. And once I'm given that opportunity, then I will ensure that I am an invaluable asset to that organization or to that team or to this. So before you get into space, you're able to just present yourself in a way that again is humble and is somebody that is like, well, I'm here to be a team player. I'm here to execute. I'm here to deliver. But at the same time, once you get into that space, you want to make sure you're an invaluable asset to that space so that you get to a point where that organization, that individual cannot will feel like if I lose this person, my whole system is a problem. So I think that would be the way I would explain it from my little experience and what I've seen with people in like work and life. I think that would be the best way I'll present it. I don't know if that's clear enough.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about, I'm sure this is what's interesting most of the students, flag football. Like
Yeah.
because as Nuga, we've been in conversation with NAFA and we're trying to understand the whole concept of flag football, how it's different to American football, and how do we get this into our university space. Now we are putting you on the spot. What are you
Okay.
doing to get this exciting sport? Because anyone who's watched flag football on TV knows how exciting it is. So, how do we get this into the Nigerian university space?
Thank you so much. And I like what you said about exciting, because a lot of people have not seen flag football. So again, I always tell people to explain flag. Many people have seen people play rugby. So think about rugby, and then as a child, you used to play kacha kacha. Rugby and kacha kacha meet together, and then they had a baby. That's what flag football is, right? There's nobody that doesn't, till today, it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're chasing your wife or you're chasing your friends, there's still that visceral experience you get from chasing somebody to get something. And with flag, the biggest thing is how you're chasing someone to pull the flag from their waist. So I think a lot of people enjoy that excitement. Of course, there's the action of the ball flying in the air, people jumping, all the athleticism, exciting. But the beauty about the fact that everybody can play flag doesn't matter your size, your weight. There's a role for somebody in a sport like this. And that's also one of the inclusiveness of the sport that makes it unique from basically every other sport. So again, when we started this journey, like I said, we focused on secondary schools and we basically perfected the strategy around how do we work with federations, organizations that manage institutional sports. And so what we're now trying to do is replicate that experience with the Nigeria School Sports Federation with NUGA. And to achieve that, again, we're not coming out the gate to say, well, going to every school to host the biggest event in the world. No, it's look, we want to build this thing with you. So the first step now was what we did recently. That worked with a few universities and schools of technology in colleges in Lagos to do an exhibition. So we had an exhibition just a few weeks ago about five universities, five institutions participated. Of course, the vice president of NUGA was there, vice president of Rempuga was there, and a few other individuals from the universities came in. So the first step is let's exhibit, let them see that this thing is there's capacity and there's interest in the schools. And we're excited that many schools picked it up. Suddenly, I mean, we have schools that are not even in an immediate pipeline reaching out. So the next step now is we're trying to engage the individual zones. I believe first phase is supposed to be 7 zones. Take the opportunity we're seeing with the preliminaries coming on to initiate the train the trainer initiative across strategic zones. That way we can work with those individual zones, train a few people, and then give them the right resources to go to their campuses, gauge interest, build capacity at their level. And then, of course, once we see this capacity, we will now do the monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the schools are doing what they need to do. They need additional support, they're able to help. Of course, ultimately, from that next year is when we want to have a much broader national showcase with different institutions across the country. And then to now basically say, well, we've been working with these schools for 6 to 7 months. Now they want to show you what they have. And we're hoping NUGA will be excited with those decisions. And by 2027, our sports will be an official sport for NUGA.
All right. In your presentation, you mentioned about a program you're running to encourage female athletes take part in this. Because when people think contact sports, they're a little bit hesitant, especially when it's not football or basketball. So can you elaborate on this program so that our lecturers here or sports directors can really comprehend that it's not just the men they need to engage for this, but the women as well? And that's question one. The second one is, what is NAFA doing as an organization to cater for those who are outside the participation fair? They're students, they're not athletic, but they are interested in sports. Are there opportunities for these people within your organization?
Thank you so much for that question. And when we said, I think let me start off with the GEMS initiative. So when we created the Gridiron GEMS, we just launched it earlier this year. Again, we were the mission for the GEMS is empowering women through the game of American football. And you are basically saying, well, it's NAFA, but NAFA for women. And to me, when I mean, a lot of people don't like the fact that a lot of organizations are really trying to owning on women, but let's be honest, we're in a country where female participation in sports is not that high, especially like you get our sport, American football in general is seen as a male sport, period. So, being able to say, look, especially with flag, which is basically non-contact. Everybody can play. It's an opportunity of a lifetime for many people. And we're like, look, we cannot sleep on helping focus on that. So with the Gridiron Gems initiative, our key focus around that is it funds the team Nigeria female team that went to Egypt. It was funded by this initiative. We're looking at it's heavy on partnerships with other female-led initiatives. Like I said earlier this year, we did something with the Correctional Center in Lagos for girls. We did something also. We did something in October for breast cancer awareness. So there's a lot of collaborative because we are trying to build female leaders of tomorrow through this initiative. And our mandate is in the next 5 years, we want to, train and expose 150,000 girls into the game of flag football. We're trying to at least generate or create about 200 leaders, people that you can say, well, as a result of this, they've gotten to this point as leaders in their life. And then one of the key things that will segue me into the second question is for this, we're also hoping to ensure that we've trained at least 5,000 referees and coaches that are women in the next 5 years. And that takes me to your other question, because the sports ecosystem is an ecosystem. It's not just about the people that are just playing the sport. I'll give you the case in point with where we are as an organization. Because of we now exist, like again, I mean, there are things, of course, there's the physiotherapist angle that it's not new, but things that have started to get very interesting that we did not even see coming up was, for example, demand for certain types of equipment that was never existing in Nigeria. Suddenly, there's a business opportunity for creating American footballs. There's a business opportunity like the boots American football players wear is slightly different from the one that soccer players wear. And the fundamental difference is the way you kick a ball. You don't kick in American football, you run fast and you stop. So you need what you call a stud at the tip of your toe. If you put that in an American soccer boot, the person will lose his mind because he needs to be able to control the ball with his feet. But with American football, he needs to be able to stop fast. So suddenly there's a demand for a different type of thing. There's nobody doing that, right? So opportunities present themselves beyond just, oh, you're playing. As you said, with every secondary school we go to, there's high demand now for, oh, please send us a new coach, send us a new somebody that can train our kids. We don't even have enough of that. So opportunities present themselves beyond just, oh, I'm an actual player, right? In American football, I mean, you have usually when you play the game, you have about six officials, eight if you want to do it properly. So main ref, second ref, four linesmen, people that are taking statistics. Because again, there's so much stats in American football. Did you pull the flag? Did you catch? Did you defend? There's so much more stats. So there's heavy need of statisticians in a sport like this. So the ecosystem is huge. I think, which is why, I don't know if you know this, but which is why in the top 10 most valuable sports franchises, American football teams are 8 out of the 10. There's a reason for that because it's such a big industry. And we in Nigeria, we've not, I won't say we're scratching the surface, we've not even seen the surface yet. And, there's so much potential that we're sleeping on. I'm hoping with the growth with the relationships with Nuga and everybody else, we can start to unlock that potential as a country.
All right. Thank you so much for this sharing. I don't know if anyone in the audience has a question, a comment that you want to ask our president here. You can leave a comment in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and then we can ask you give you the mic or give you the floor to ask a question. Does anyone have a question? Anyone? I think you've been very expressive with your comments. If you could share the slides with us as well, because we would like to also share the slides with our listeners. This, with your permission, of course, will be posted on our social media pages and on our YouTube pages as well, so that our students who've not had time now, will have time to listen. Thank you again for making our time to be with us today. We really do appreciate your endeavors, and of course, look forward to all that you have promised. Believe us when we say Nigerian students we'll hold you to your promise for everything you promised to give us when it comes to American football and, of course, flag football as we look towards the Olympics. Because we believe by the time the Olympics rolls around, you're going to look for young, you're going to look for fresh, you're going to look for those who now understand the sport, and hopefully Nigerian students can be the ones to make history. After all, the Olympics is usually made up of student athletes, so we might as well add to the quota when it comes to flag football. Thank you so much, Babajide, for your time. We hope to
Thank
see you
you.
soon, somewhere soon. Thank you.